The potato salad sat untouched on my plate as Monica's words echoed through the backyard like a slap I couldn't dodge. Oh come on, we're just being honest here. If Simone disappeared tomorrow, would anyone really miss her? She's so quiet, so boring. No one would even notice she was gone. The laughter that followed felt like knives. Brandon's brother chuckled. His cousin smirked into her drink. Even Brandon, my husband of 7 years, just looked down at his burger and said nothing. He didn't defend me. He didn't tell his sister to shut her mouth. He just sat there, and in that silence I felt something inside me crack open. I forced a smile, the same smile I'd been forcing for years at these family gatherings where I was always the outsider, always the one who didn't quite fit into their loud, aggressive way of showing love. You're probably right, I said softly and excused myself to use the bathroom. Inside Monica's pristine half-bath with its blue seashell decorations, I stared at my reflection. At 32 years old, I'd spent the last 7 years trying to be enough for a man who couldn't even speak up when his sister mocked me. My dark skin glowed under the bathroom lights, my natural hair was styled in neat twists, and my brown eyes looked tired. So tired. I pulled out my phone to distract myself from the tears threatening to fall, and that's when I saw it. Brandon had left his phone on the counter that morning, and in my distracted state, I grabbed it instead of mine. They looked identical with the same black cases. The screen lit up with a notification. Can't wait to see you tonight, baby. Tell your wife you're working late again. The message was from Ashley, Brandon's co-worker. The woman he'd assured me was just a friend, when I'd mentioned her name coming up too often. My hands shook as I opened the phone. His passcode was my birthday, which now felt like a cruel joke. The messages went back an entire year. Photos of them together at hotels I recognized, restaurants we talked about trying but never did because he was always too busy or too tired. Messages planning their future together. Messages where he called her baby and my love. Words he hadn't said to me in over 2 years. There was a message from 3 days ago. Can't wait until I get the promotion next month. Then I can finally ask for the divorce and we can be together for real. She won't get much, I've made sure of that. I read it twice. 3 times. The words wouldn't change. I took screenshots of everything, texting them to my own phone with shaking fingers. Then I carefully placed his phone back exactly where it had been on the counter and splashed cold water on my face. When I walked back outside, Monica was still holding court, telling some story about her perfect life with her perfect kids. Brandon glanced at me with something that might have been guilt or might have been annoyance. I couldn't tell anymore. Maybe I never could. You okay, babe? He asked, the words sounding hollow. Perfect, I said, sitting back down beside him. Just perfect. That night, after we got home, I lay awake beside my husband as he snored softly. The man I'd loved since college. The man I'd supported through graduate school while working 2 jobs. The man who'd promised me forever on a beach in Mexico while the sun set behind us. The man who was planning to divorce me and leave me with nothing. The man whose sister had tested me with that cruel joke, probably knowing I'd already been erased from my own marriage. I stared at the ceiling fan spinning slowly above us and I made a decision. I wouldn't cry. I wouldn't scream. I wouldn't confront him and give him the chance to manipulate me with more lies. I would do something much smarter. I would disappear just like Monica had joked. But not in the way she meant. I would quietly, methodically, carefully remove myself from this life. And when I was ready, when everything was in place, I would leave them all behind to deal with the consequences of their cruelty. Brandon shifted in his sleep, his hand reaching for me out of habit. I moved away from his touch. Tomorrow I would start planning. Tonight I would grieve the life I thought I had. The bedroom suddenly felt too small, too suffocating. I got up quietly and went to the living room, pulling out my laptop. It was 2 a.m., but I couldn't sleep anyway. I started making lists, bank accounts, shared assets, important documents, legal resources. My phone buzzed. Another message to Brandon's number, which I'd also been receiving since we had the same number in different area codes from when we first got together. Missing you already. Can't believe I have to wait until Tuesday to see you again. You're worth every lie though, baby. Ashley. Her profile picture showed a blonde woman with a big smile. She looked happy. She had no idea that she was building her happiness on top of someone else's shattered life. I took another screenshot and saved it to a growing folder I'd titled Evidence. Then I opened my laptop and started searching for divorce lawyers in the area. It was time to fight back quietly and completely. By sunrise I had a plan. Not all of it, but the beginning. And that was enough for now. Brandon woke up around 7, stretching and yawning like he didn't have a care in the world. Morning, babe, he said, kissing my forehead like he'd done 1,000 times before. Morning, I replied, smiling at him. I'll make breakfast. And I did. I made his favorite, pancakes with blueberries. I poured his coffee just the way he liked it. I laughed at his jokes. I played the role of loving wife perfectly. Because that's what this was now. A role. A performance. And I was going to give the performance of my lifetime until the curtain finally fell. The law office was downtown, tucked between a coffee shop and a boutique. I'd taken a long lunch break, telling my boss at the marketing firm that I had a dentist appointment. Nobody questioned it. I'd been the reliable one for years, never taking sick days, always meeting deadlines. Attorney Patricia Okonkwo looked at me across her polished desk with kind but sharp eyes. She was in her 50s, with silver-streaked hair and a reputation for winning difficult cases. So let me make sure I understand, she said, reviewing the notes she'd taken. You discovered the affair 4 days ago. You haven't confronted him. And you want to know what your options are before making any moves. Yes, I said. I need to protect myself. He's planning to divorce me after his promotion next month. He thinks I don't know. He thinks I'll be blindsided. Patricia nodded slowly. Smart woman. Most people come in here emotional, having already confronted the cheating spouse and damaged their own case. You're thinking clearly. She pulled out a legal pad. First thing, do you have your own bank account? No. Everything is joint. Open one tomorrow. Different bank entirely. Start moving money but carefully. Only what you're entitled to. I'll give you guidelines. She made notes. Do you work? Yes. I'm a senior marketing coordinator. I make $60,000 a year. And him? He's an operations manager. He makes $80,000. But he's up for a promotion to director that would bump him to $120,000. Patricia's eyebrow raised. That promotion. When exactly is it supposed to happen? Next month. Mid-November. And he wants to divorce you after he gets it. She tapped her pen on the desk. Which means he wants the higher salary without you having any claim to it. In this state, any income during the marriage is marital property. If he files after the promotion, you're entitled to consideration of that increased income in the settlement. My stomach churned. So I should file first? We have options. But first we gather evidence. You said you have messages? I pulled out my phone and showed her the screenshots. She read through them, her expression neutral but her jaw tightening slightly. This is good. Very good. Shows premeditation, financial planning against you, and a clear affair. Virginia allows fault-based divorce and adultery as grounds. This will help. She made more notes. Now, I need you to do something difficult. You need to continue acting normal. Document everything. Every late night, every lie, every dollar he spends. Get me bank statements, credit card bills, everything. For how long? At least a month. Maybe 2. The more evidence, the better. Can you do that? I thought about sleeping next to him, smiling at him, pretending. My chest felt tight. Yes. Good. Here's what else you need to do. Patricia spent the next hour outlining a strategy. Open a new bank account. Start saving my paychecks there. Document any joint money he spent on Ashley. Get copies of tax returns. Find the deed to our house. Make a list of all assets. I left her office with a folder full of instructions and a retainer agreement I'd signed. $5,000 up front, which I'd put on a credit card he didn't know about, one I'd gotten years ago for emergencies and never used. This was an emergency. That evening Brandon came home late. Again. Sorry babe, the Johnson account is killing us. Had to stay late to finish the presentation. It's okay, I said, stirring the pasta sauce. Dinner's almost ready. He kissed my cheek and I smelled perfume. Not mine. Something sweet and expensive. After dinner, while he showered, I went through his wallet. 3 receipts from a hotel downtown. All from the past 2 weeks. All charged to our joint credit card. He wasn't even trying to hide it anymore. I photographed each one and put them back exactly as they'd been. The next morning, I stopped at a different bank on my way to work. First National, across town from our usual bank. I opened a checking and savings account in only my name. The banker, a friendly older man named Gerald, smiled at me. Starting fresh? He asked. Something like that, I replied. I transferred $500 to start, not enough for Brandon to notice missing, but enough to begin my escape fund. At work, I threw myself into my projects with new intensity. My boss, Helen, noticed. Simone, this campaign proposal is exceptional, she said during our weekly meeting. I've been meaning to talk to you. We have a senior manager position opening up in the new year. I'd like you to apply. Senior manager. That would be a jump to $85,000 a year. I'm very interested, I said, keeping my voice steady even though I wanted to scream with joy. More money. More independence. More proof that I didn't need Brandon. Good. Keep up this level of work and the job is practically yours. I floated through the rest of the day. That evening, I waited until Brandon was asleep before opening my laptop. I checked our joint bank account. He'd spent $300 at an expensive restaurant last week. The same night he'd told me he was eating takeout at the office. I documented it. I checked our credit card. A purchase at a jewelry store. $800. He hadn't given me any jewelry. I documented it. I found the deed to our house in the filing cabinet. The house we'd bought together 5 years ago. Both our names on the title, but I'd put down the entire $30,000 down payment from my inheritance when my grandmother died. Brandon had been in graduate school, broke and buried in student loans I'd helped him pay off. I made copies of everything. Over the next week I fell into a rhythm. Smile. Document. Save money. Pretend. It was exhausting but also clarifying. Every lie Brandon told, every late night, every time he came home smelling like her perfume, it all hardened something inside me. Monica called midweek. Hey Simone, we're having dinner Sunday. You guys coming? I'll check with Brandon, I said pleasantly. Great. And hey, about what I said at the barbecue. I was just joking around. You know that, right? No apology. Just a justification. Of course, I said. It was funny. I heard her sigh with relief. Good. Some people are so sensitive. After we hung up, I stared at my phone. Monica knew. I was suddenly certain of it. The way she'd said it, the way she'd tested me afterward. She knew about Ashley and she was covering for her brother. That night I couldn't help myself. When Brandon went to shower, I checked his phone again. New messages from Monica. She doesn't suspect anything. Went exactly like you said. Made the joke, she barely reacted. You're good to keep seeing A until after the promotion. My blood ran cold. Monica hadn't been cruel on a whim. It had been a test. A calculated, vicious test to see if I knew my husband was cheating. And Brandon had asked her to do it. I took screenshots with shaking hands. Then I did something I shouldn't have. I scrolled back through months of messages between Brandon and Monica. Planning. Scheming. Monica covering for him, providing alibis, even meeting Ashley herself to check her out. There was a message from Monica from 6 months ago. She's pretty, I'll give you that. Way more fun than Simone. You sure you want to wait until the promotion? Just divorce her now. Brandon's response, need the promotion first. Better salary for when we split assets. Plus her inheritance money bought the house. Lawyer said I need to be smart about timing. They've been planning this for at least 6 months. Maybe longer. I put the phone back and went to the bedroom. I lay in the dark, staring at nothing. Tomorrow I would call Patricia again. This wasn't just about Brandon cheating. This was conspiracy. This was his entire family helping him destroy me financially and emotionally. Well, two could play that game. And I was going to win. The apartment was small but perfect. 5th floor, large windows, hardwood floors, and most importantly, it was mine alone. The landlord, an elderly woman named Mrs. Chen, smiled as she handed me the keys. When do you move in, dear? December 1st, I said. 6 weeks away. I'm going through a transition. She patted my hand. Say no more. I've been there. First and last month's rent and it's yours. I'd been saving every penny I could. My paychecks went entirely into my private account now. I told Brandon my company was having direct deposit issues, and I was getting paper checks I had to deposit myself. He barely listened when I explained it, too distracted by his phone, probably texting Ashley. I'd been watching them both carefully. Ashley worked on the 3rd floor of Brandon's office building. I'd looked her up on social media using a fake account. She posted constantly. Pictures of expensive dinners, new clothes, a new designer bag. All things Brandon was buying her with our money. She was also married. Her husband, Thomas, appeared in older photos but not recent ones. They had no kids. He worked as a teacher based on his own sparse social media. He had no idea his wife was having an affair. I felt bad for him. But not bad enough to tell him yet. That card would be played at exactly the right time. For now, I focused on building my exit strategy piece by piece. At work, I was killing it. Helen had basically promised me the senior manager position. I stayed late, volunteered for extra projects, and networked at every company event. My coworkers started seeing me differently, not as the quiet woman who kept to herself, but as someone competent and ambitious. You've really come out of your shell, my colleague Trina said one afternoon. We were at a coffee shop near the office, and she'd invited me to join her and some others for happy hour. The old me would have said no, worried Brandon would be upset if I came home late. The new me said yes immediately. I guess I'm just tired of being invisible, I admitted. Trina, a vibrant woman with short locks and an infectious laugh, nodded. Girl, I get that. You know what? You should come to my book club. We meet twice a month. All women, good wine, better conversations. I'd love that. And I meant it. Brandon had slowly isolated me over the years. Not dramatically, just little comments here and there. Do you really want to go out with them? You always complain you're tired. Another girl's night? You just had one last month. Until I stopped making plans, stopped reaching out to friends, stopped existing outside of our marriage. Well, I was done with that. At book club that Thursday, I met 6 amazing women. They were lawyers, teachers, entrepreneurs, artists. They drank wine and argued passionately about the novel we'd read. They asked me about my life and I gave them the edited version. I was thinking about making some changes, focusing on my career, reassessing my priorities. One woman, Nicole, a divorce attorney herself, gave me a knowing look. Good for you, she said quietly. Life's too short to be unhappy. I started going to the gym again. I'd stopped years ago when Brandon complained about the membership fee, even though he spent 3 times that much on his golf hobby. Now I went 3 times a week, early in the morning before work. I felt stronger. Not just physically, mentally. Every evening I came home and played the dutiful wife. I made dinner. I asked about his day. I laughed at his jokes. And every night after he fell asleep, I packed a little more of my life into boxes I stored at a rented storage unit across town. Photo albums, the real ones from before everything went digital. My grandmother's jewelry. My college degree. Important documents. My favorite books. Anything that mattered to me, anything I couldn't replace, went into those boxes. Brandon never noticed. He was too busy living his double life. One Saturday he claimed he had a work emergency. I watched him drive away, then followed him in my car, staying far enough back that he wouldn't spot me. He went to an apartment complex on the west side. Ashley's place, I assumed. I sat in my car down the street and watched him go inside. He stayed for 4 hours. When he came home, I was cooking dinner like nothing had happened. How was the emergency? I asked sweetly. Exhausting. But we got it handled. Lie after lie after lie. That night, I called Patricia with an update. I've documented everything. Bank statements, credit card charges, text messages, photos. I've got proof he's spending marital assets on his affair. I've got proof his sister is helping him plan this. I've got my own apartment lined up. Good. Here's what happens next. In 3 weeks we file. We hit him fast and hard before that promotion goes through. If he gets promoted before we file, it complicates things. We want to file while he's still at his current salary. But won't that mean less money in the settlement? Not necessarily. We can argue that the promotion was expected during the marriage and factor it into calculations. Plus, if we file first, we control the narrative. We have the evidence. He'll be scrambling to catch up. My heart pounded. 3 weeks. 3 weeks. Can you hold on that long? I thought about Monica's cruel words. About Brandon's betrayal. About all the nights I'd cried myself to sleep while he was with her. Yes, I said. I can hold on. Those 3 weeks crawled by. I continued my double life. At work I was thriving. At home I was dying inside but keeping my mask firmly in place. I made copies of everything. Tax returns going back 5 years. Mortgage statements. Insurance policies. Investment accounts. Our wedding album, not because I wanted it but because it was proof of the marriage. I transferred money slowly, carefully. Not so much that he'd notice but enough to build a safety net. $7,000 sat in my private account now. $7,000 of freedom. I went to book club and happy hours. I made friends. I started building a life that had nothing to do with Brandon. And then one Tuesday evening Monica called again. Family dinner this Sunday. Don't forget. We'll be there, I said automatically. Good. Brandon seems stressed lately. Maybe you should do something nice for him. The audacity. The absolute audacity of this woman who helped her brother cheat on me, telling me I should be nicer to him. You're right, I said. I'll plan something special. After we hung up, I stared at my phone. One more family dinner. One more performance. Then I'd be free. Sunday came. Brandon and I drove to Monica's house together. He held my hand in the car and I let him. At dinner, I smiled at Monica. I complimented her cooking. I played with her kids. I was the perfect sister-in-law. And the whole time I watched her. The way she looked at Brandon with pride. The way she smirked when she thought I wasn't looking. The way she built her own happiness on the foundation of my pain. "Simone, you're so quiet," she said at one point. "Everything okay?" "Everything's perfect," I said, smiling. "Just thinking about the future." "The future can be scary," Monica said, and there was something sharp in her tone. "Or exciting," I replied. "Depends on your perspective." Brandon squeezed my hand under the table. He thought I was being brave. He had no idea I was counting down the days until I destroyed his carefully laid plans. On the drive home he was affectionate. Kissed my hand at red lights. "I love you, you know that?" "I know," I said. 2 more weeks and his world would implode. I could hardly wait. The coffee shop was busy on Wednesday afternoon, but I'd chosen a corner booth far from the windows. Patricia sat across from me, reviewing documents on her tablet while I nursed my second latte, nerves making my stomach churn. "I found something," I said quietly, sliding my phone across the table. "Monica's been doing more than just covering for him." Patricia scrolled through the screenshots I'd taken the night before. Brandon had gotten sloppy, leaving his phone unlocked while he showered. Or maybe he just stopped caring about hiding things from me, confident in my ignorance. The messages between Brandon and Monica went back 2 years. Long before Ashley entered the picture. "You need to leave her," Monica had written 18 months ago. "She's holding you back. You could do so much better." Brandon's response: "It's complicated. The house, the money, everything's tangled up." Monica: "Then untangle it. I'll help you. I know a lawyer who can make sure you get what you deserve." Patricia's jaw tightened as she read. "This is, wow. She's been actively encouraging him to divorce you and strategizing how to minimize your share of assets. That's not just covering for an affair. That's conspiracy." "There's more," I said. I pulled up another conversation from 8 months ago, right around when the affair with Ashley started. "Monica, she's pretty, successful. Way better than us. You should go for it." Brandon: "What about Simone?" Monica: "What about her? She's boring. She's always been boring. Honestly, I don't know why you married her in the first place. Mom and Dad might have liked her, but she never fit into our family." Brandon: "She put down the money for the house though. That's a problem." Monica: "My lawyer friend says there are ways around that. Document everything. Make it look like you contributed more than you did. Keep track of every bill you pay, every repair. Build a paper trail." Patricia set the phone down carefully. "This changes things. She's not just a bystander. She's actively helping him commit financial fraud." "Why though?" I asked, my voice cracking despite my best efforts to stay calm. "I never did anything to her. I've been nothing but kind. I babysat her kids. I remembered her birthday. I showed up to every family event with a smile." Patricia looked at me with sympathy. "Sometimes people don't need a reason beyond jealousy. You said his parents liked you?" "His mom loved me. She always said I was the daughter she never had. Monica has 3 kids and works part-time, and my mother-in-law would make comments about how I was so ambitious, so accomplished." The realization hit me like a truck. Oh my God. She resented me because her own mother preferred me. Probably. And instead of dealing with her own insecurities, she decided to help destroy your marriage. Patricia made notes on her tablet. "This actually helps our case significantly. We can show a pattern of premeditation and conspiracy. This isn't a man who made a mistake. This is calculated." I felt sick. 7 years of family dinners, holidays, birthday parties. 7 years of trying to fit in, trying to be accepted. And the whole time Monica had been working against me. "The worst part," I said. "That joke at the barbecue. No one would miss you." She said it to see if I'd react. To see if I knew. Patricia nodded. Classic manipulation tactic. Test the target to assess their awareness level. When you didn't react strongly, she reported back to Brandon that you were clueless. My phone buzzed. A text from Monica. "Sunday dinner at Mom and Dad's this week. They're asking about you and B. Everything good?" I stared at the message. Everything good? My husband was planning to divorce me, steal my money, and destroy my life. His sister was helping him. And she had the audacity to ask if everything was good. I texted back, "Everything's great. We'll be there." Patricia watched me. "Can you handle one more family dinner?" "I can handle anything now," I said. And I meant it. The hurt was still there, sharp and raw. But underneath it was something harder. Anger. Determination. A cold, focused rage that made me think clearly for the first time in years. That night I did more digging. I created a timeline of Monica's involvement. Every message, every phone call, every time she'd provided Brandon with an alibi. She told their parents that Brandon was helping her with home repairs on nights he was actually with Ashley. She'd covered for him at least 15 times that I could document. I also found messages between Monica and Ashley. They'd met for lunch 3 times. Monica was basically coaching her on how to replace me. "Don't worry about S," Monica had written. "She's not a fighter. When B finally tells her, she'll probably just cry and move back with her parents. She's never stood up for herself in her life." Reading that felt like acid in my veins. Is that really how they saw me? Wait, pathetic? Incapable of fighting back? I'd show them exactly how wrong they were. The next day at work, I had my interview for the senior manager position. Helen sat across from me with 2 other executives, and I presented my vision for the department's growth. I was confident, articulate, passionate. I was everything they needed. "Simone," Helen said when we finished, "I'm not supposed to tell you this before we make it official, but you've got the job. We'll announce it next week. $85,000 a year, full benefits, and a signing bonus of $10,000. I wanted to cry with relief. Instead, I smiled professionally and thanked them. $95,000 total. More money than Brandon made. More security. More proof that I didn't need him or his toxic family. That Sunday, I got dressed for family dinner with extra care. I wore a navy blue dress Brandon had always liked, did my makeup perfectly, styled my hair in neat curls. I looked beautiful. I looked happy. I looked like someone who had no idea her world was about to end. Brandon's parents' house was in the suburbs, a sprawling ranch with a big backyard. His mother, Gloria, hugged me tight when we arrived. "Simone, I've missed you, sweetie. You look gorgeous." "Thanks, Mom," I said, using the name she'd asked me to call her years ago. Brandon's father, Harold, kissed my cheek and immediately started talking about a fishing trip he wanted to take Brandon on. Monica was already there with her husband Derek and their 3 kids. She hugged me and I hugged her back, imagining it was the last time I'd ever have to touch her. "How are you doing?" she asked, fake concern dripping from her voice. "Never better," I said honestly. Dinner was pot roast, Gloria's specialty. We sat around the big dining table, Brandon next to me, Monica across from us, the kids at the smaller table nearby. Harold said grace and we ate. "So Simone," Gloria said, "how's work going? Brandon mentioned you had something exciting happening?" I told Brandon about the promotion interview but not the result. He'd barely paid attention at the time. "Actually, I got the promotion," I said. "Senior manager. They're announcing it next week." Gloria clapped her hands together. "That's wonderful. Oh, I'm so proud of you." Monica's smile looked like it hurt. "Congratulations. That's great." Brandon looked surprised. "Wait, you got it? When did they tell you?" "Yesterday," I said. "I meant to tell you, but you came home so late from work." The lie slipped out easily. He'd come home at a normal time. I just wanted to see if he'd correct me or if he'd go along with his own cover story. He shifted uncomfortably. "Right. Yeah. That's amazing, babe." Harold raised his glass. "To Simone. The first executive in the family." We toasted. Monica barely touched her glass to her lips. After dinner, I helped Gloria with dishes while the men watched football and Monica wrangled her kids. Gloria dried while I washed and she talked about a charity event she was planning. "You know, Simone, you've been such a blessing to this family," she said suddenly. "Brandon is lucky to have you. I hope he knows that." My throat tightened. "Thank you, Monica." Sometimes. Gloria trailed off, choosing her words carefully. "She can be competitive. I hope she hasn't made you feel unwelcome." I thought about all the screenshots on my phone. All the evidence of Monica's betrayal. "She's been fine," I said. But inside I was counting down. Counting down to the moment when Gloria would learn the truth about both her children. When we left that night, Gloria hugged me extra tight. "Come visit me sometime. Just us. Let's have lunch." "I'd love that," I said. And the tragedy was, I meant it. I actually liked Gloria and Harold. They'd been kind to me, accepting in ways my own parents sometimes weren't. But they'd raised Brandon and Monica. They'd created these people who thought it was acceptable to betray someone who loved them. In the car ride home, Brandon was quiet. "What's wrong?" I asked. "Nothing. Just, you're doing really well. At work, I mean. I'm proud of you." For a second he sounded sincere. For a second, I remembered the man I'd fallen in love with in college. The one who'd stayed up all night helping me study for finals, who'd held me when my grandmother died, who'd promised me forever. But that man was gone. Maybe he'd never really existed. Thanks, I said. Your promotion should be coming through soon too, right? Yeah. Next week probably. Next week. Patricia wanted me to file before that promotion became official, which meant we were running out of time. That's great, I said. We should celebrate when it happens. Both our promotions. Yeah, he said. We should. He reached for my hand. I let him take it. One more week of pretending. Then the curtain would fall, and they'd all see exactly who they'd been underestimating. Patricia's office felt different on Monday morning. Maybe it was because I knew this was really happening. Maybe it was because I'd finally committed to blowing up my entire life. Whatever the reason, my hands were steadier than they'd been in weeks as I signed the divorce petition. You're sure about the timing? Patricia asked one more time, watching me carefully. Once we file today, there's no going back. I'm sure. His promotion gets announced Friday. I want him served before that happens. She nodded approvingly. Smart. We're also filing an emergency motion to freeze joint assets pending the divorce proceedings. Given the evidence of him spending marital funds on his affair, the judge should grant it. I'd spent the weekend preparing. Every joint account, every credit card, every investment. I had records of everything. Patricia had helped me create a detailed accounting of marital assets. The house, worth $400,000 with $200,000 left on the mortgage. I'd put down the entire $60,000 down payment using my inheritance. Brandon had contributed nothing to the purchase. Joint savings, $32,000, though it had been $45,000 before Brandon started spending money on Ashley. His 401k, $80,000. My 401k, $50,000. 2 cars. Mine was paid off, his had $20,000 still owed. And then there were all the charges I'd documented. Jewelry, hotel rooms, expensive dinners, clothes, over $20,000 in the past year alone, all spent on his affair, all from our joint accounts. Patricia had already filed a motion to have him reimburse the marital estate for those expenditures. This is going to get ugly, she warned me. He's going to be angry. His family is going to be angry. Are you prepared for that? Yes, I said. And I grieved the loss of this marriage over the past 6 weeks. I'd cried my tears in private, usually in my car in parking lots where no one could see me break down. I'd felt the pain. Now I was ready for war. What about Monica? I asked. Can we do anything about her involvement? Patricia considered. The messages between her and Brandon show she knowingly helped him hide assets and planned to defraud you of your fair share. We can't sue her directly in the divorce proceedings, but I can threaten to expose her involvement to their parents. Sometimes the threat of social consequences is more effective than legal ones. I like that idea. Monica cared deeply about what people thought of her, especially her parents. The process server would deliver the papers to Brandon at his office at 3 p.m. today. I'd be in my apartment by then. The lease started early and I'd gotten permission to move in today instead of December 1st. My furniture was minimal since I was leaving almost everything behind, but I didn't care. I'd rather start over with nothing than stay surrounded by memories of lies. One more thing, Patricia said, pulling out another document. I'm also recommending we file a restraining order if he shows any signs of aggression. Given that you're leaving and he doesn't know where you've gone, it might not be necessary, but I want you to have the option. Thank you, I said. For everything I didn't add. For believing me. For fighting for me. For treating me like someone worth defending. I left her office and went straight to my new apartment. The movers I'd hired were already there with the items from my storage unit and a few pieces of furniture I'd bought used over the past week. A small couch. A bed. A kitchen table. Basics. By 2 p.m. I was mostly settled. By 2:30 I was pacing. By 3 p.m. I was staring at my phone, waiting. The call came at 3:17 p.m. Patricia. He's been served. The process server said he went pale and asked if this was a joke. When he realized it wasn't, he tried calling you immediately. My phone showed 15 missed calls from Brandon. I'd silenced it. What do I do? I asked. Nothing. Don't answer. Don't engage. He's probably in shock right now, but that's going to turn to anger fast. Stay where you are, keep your doors locked and wait. I did as she said. The missed calls kept coming. Then text messages started flooding in. Simone, what the fuck is this? Answer your phone right now. This is insane. We need to talk. You can't just leave. We're married. Call me back now. I watched the messages pile up, feeling nothing. Or maybe feeling everything, but from a safe distance, like watching a storm through a window. At 4 p.m., my phone rang with a number I didn't recognize. I answered cautiously. Simone? It's Gloria. My heart sank. Hi. What's going on? Brandon called me crying. He said you served him with divorce papers at work. He said he doesn't understand what happened. For a moment I considered lying, making excuses, being the bigger person. Then I remembered Monica's messages. Brandon's plans to leave me with nothing. The year of lies and betrayal. Did he tell you about Ashley? I asked quietly. Silence. Long, horrible silence. Who's Ashley? His coworker. The woman he's been having an affair with for the past year. The woman he's been spending our money on. The woman he was planning to leave me for right after he got his promotion, which he specifically waited for so I'd get less in the divorce. I heard Gloria's sharp intake of breath. No. No, he wouldn't. I have proof. Messages, bank statements, photos. Monica knows about it too. She's been helping him hide it. She's been covering for him for months. Monica knew? Gloria's voice cracked. My Monica? Yes. I have messages between them planning how to minimize what I'd get in the divorce. How to make it look like he'd contributed more to the house than he did. All of it. Gloria started crying. Simone, I don't know what to say. I'm so sorry. I had no idea. I know you didn't. You and Harold have always been kind to me. This isn't about you. Where are you? Are you safe? I'm fine. I'm in my own apartment now. I'm going to be okay. Can I see you? To talk. I thought about it. Maybe someday. But not right now. Right now, I need space from anyone connected to Brandon. After we hung up, I felt drained. Gloria had been collateral damage and I genuinely felt bad about that. But I couldn't protect everyone's feelings while protecting myself. My phone rang again. Monica this time. I declined the call. She texted immediately, "You vindictive bitch. How dare you tell Mom those lies?" I screenshot the message and sent it to Patricia. Evidence of harassment. At 6 p.m. there was pounding on my apartment door. I froze, heart racing. Through the peephole I saw Brandon. His face was red, eyes wild. Simone. I know you're in there. Open this door right now. I stepped back quietly, grabbed my phone and called Patricia. He's at my door, I whispered. Don't open it. I'm calling the police for a welfare check. Stay on the line with me. Brandon kept pounding. You can't do this. You can't just throw away 7 years. We need to talk. Simone. Neighbors were starting to come out of their apartments. Mrs. Chin appeared at the end of the hallway. Young man, you need to leave or I'm calling the police. This is my wife. Not anymore apparently. And this is my building. Leave now. The police arrived 10 minutes later. I heard them talking to Brandon in the hallway, heard him trying to explain, heard them firmly tell him to leave. When everything went quiet, there was a knock on my door. Ma'am? This is Officer Rodriguez. Your attorney called us. Are you okay? I opened the door with the chain still on. The officer was a woman in her 40s with kind eyes. I'm fine. He didn't hurt me. He's just upset. We've told him to leave and not come back. If he returns, call us immediately. Your attorney is also filing for a restraining order. After she left, I sat on my new couch in my new apartment and finally let myself cry. Not for Brandon. Not for the marriage. But for the woman I'd been. The one who'd believed love was enough, who'd thought being kind and patient would be rewarded. That woman was gone now. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is Thomas, Ashley's husband. Can we talk? I stared at it for a long moment. Then I replied, yes. Tomorrow. I'll send you an address. If I was burning it all down, I might as well make sure everyone went up in flames together. The coffee shop was neutral territory, busy enough that we wouldn't be overheard but quiet enough to have a real conversation. Thomas sat across from me, looking like a man who'd had the worst week of his life. He was tall, lean, wearing a teacher's casual uniform of khakis and a button-down shirt. His eyes were red-rimmed. Thank you for meeting me, he said quietly. I didn't know who else to talk to. How did you get my number? I asked. Your attorney's office gave it to me after I called. I guess they figured we might want to compare notes. Patricia hadn't mentioned it, but I wasn't surprised. She probably thought it would be good for me to talk to someone who understood exactly what I was going through. So, I said, how did you find out? She told me. After your husband was served with divorce papers, Ashley came home and confessed everything. Said she was in love with him, wanted a divorce, that they were planning to be together. He laughed bitterly. A year. A whole year she was lying to me. Making me feel crazy for suspecting something was wrong. I know the feeling. We sat in silence for a moment. Then Thomas pulled out his phone. She showed me some of the messages between them. About you. About me. They talked about us like we were just obstacles. Problems to be solved. That's exactly what we were to them, I said. Inconveniences in the way of their happiness. Did you know his sister helped them? Monica. Yeah. I have messages showing she's been involved for months. Maybe longer. Thomas shook his head. What kind of person does that? Helps destroy a marriage? The same kind who makes cruel jokes to see if you suspect anything, I said, and told him about the barbecue comment. His hands clenched around his coffee cup. I'm filing too. For divorce. My lawyer says with proof of adultery, I'll get a fair settlement. We don't have kids, thank God. And I'm not giving her anything beyond what's legally required. Good. They don't deserve our kindness. Ashley's parents are devastated. They called me to apologize, if you can believe that. Her mother cried on the phone. He met my eyes. What about his parents? His mother was horrified when I told her. His father called me yesterday to say he was sorry and that they'd raised Brandon better than this. They've basically disowned him and Monica. Thomas looked surprised. Really? Gloria and Harold are good people. They just raised two selfish children somehow. We talked for over an hour. About our marriages, about the betrayals, about how we were both trying to rebuild. It helped, talking to someone who understood. Someone who wasn't judging me for not seeing the signs earlier, for not fighting to save the marriage, for walking away. Can I ask you something? Thomas said as we were getting ready to leave. Do you think they actually love each other? Or was it just the excitement of sneaking around? I thought about this a lot. I think they loved the idea of each other. The fantasy version where they didn't have to deal with real-life problems like bills and boring routines and the mundane reality of actually building a life together. But real love? No. Real love doesn't involve destroying other people. He nodded slowly. That makes sense. Ashley never liked the hard parts of marriage. When my mom got sick last year and I was stressed and exhausted, she complained I wasn't fun anymore. I guess she went looking for fun elsewhere. We exchanged numbers before leaving, promising to keep in touch. It felt good to have an ally, someone who'd been through the fire and come out the other side. That evening I went to book club. We were discussing a novel about a woman who reinvented herself after a major life change, and it felt almost too on the nose. But being there with these women who'd welcomed me without judgment helped more than I could express. Afterward, Nicole walked me to my car. How are you really doing? She asked. Better than expected. Worse than I'd like. Somewhere in the middle. That's normal. Divorce is hell even when it's the right decision. She hesitated. My firm is hiring, actually. We need someone with marketing experience to run our client outreach program. It would be a lateral move salary-wise, but there's room for growth. Would you be interested? I blinked in surprise. You're offering me a job? I'm offering you an interview. But yes, I think you'd be great at it. And selfishly, I'd like to work with you. Can I think about it? Of course. No pressure. I drove home, to my apartment, my new home, feeling lighter than I had in weeks. New job possibility. New friends. New life taking shape piece by piece. My promotion at my current company was official now. I'd moved into my new office, a corner space with windows overlooking downtown. My team seemed excited to work with me. Helen had taken me to lunch to celebrate and offered advice on leadership. You're going to be amazing at this, she'd said. You've got good instincts and you're not afraid of hard work. That's a rare combination. At work I was thriving. At home I was healing. Slowly, painfully, but definitely healing. I started therapy the following week. Dr. Williams was a black woman in her 60s who specialized in trauma and relationships. She didn't judge me for staying as long as I did or for not seeing the signs earlier. You trusted someone you loved, she said during our first session. That's not a weakness. That's what marriage is supposed to be built on. He's the one who betrayed that trust. You did nothing wrong. I cried a lot in therapy. About the marriage, yes, but also about older wounds I'd been carrying. About never feeling good enough. About changing myself to fit into Brandon's family. About losing pieces of myself over the years until I barely recognized who I'd become. Who do you want to be? Dr. Williams asked one session. I thought about it. Strong. Independent. Someone who doesn't shrink herself to make others comfortable. Someone who knows her worth. Then let's work on that. And we did. Week after week, I went to therapy and unpacked 7 years of damage. It was hard work, but it was necessary. Meanwhile, the divorce proceedings moved forward. Brandon hired a lawyer, an aggressive man who tried to argue that I'd abandoned the marriage and wasn't entitled to half of everything. Patricia shut that down immediately with our evidence of his affair and financial misconduct. The emergency freeze on assets was granted. Brandon couldn't touch our joint accounts without court permission. He was furious, according to Patricia. His lawyer claims you're being vindictive, she told me. His lawyer can claim whatever he wants. We have proof he stole from me to fund his affair. That's not vindictive. That's justice. Monica tried to contact me multiple times. I blocked her number. She showed up at my old job, but security turned her away. She sent me an email that I forwarded to Patricia without reading. She's panicking, Patricia said. She knows if this all comes out in court she looks really bad. She's trying to do damage control. Let her panic. Through all of this I kept building my new life. I went to the gym. I went to book club. I had dinners with Trina and her friends. I visited art galleries and went to movies alone and rediscovered hobbies I'd abandoned. I started writing again, something I'd loved in college but had stopped when Brandon said it was a waste of time. I filled journals with my thoughts, my anger, my hope for the future. One Friday evening I was at a work happy hour when Jerome approached me. He worked in the finance department and we chatted a few times in the break room. He was handsome, tall, dark-skinned with an easy smile. Hey Simone. How are you settling into the new role? Good. Still learning but I'm enjoying it. That's great. He hesitated. I heard you were going through some personal stuff. I don't want to overstep, but if you ever want to talk or just grab coffee as friends, I'm around. I appreciated that he was respectful, not pushing. Thank you. I might take you up on that. No pressure. Just want you to know you've got people in your corner. As I drove home that night, I thought about Jerome's kindness. I wasn't ready to date, wouldn't be for a long time. But it was nice to know that good men still existed. Men who offered support without expecting anything in return. My phone buzzed with a text from Thomas. Ashley moved out today. Found her an apartment near her parents. I'm in the house alone now and it feels empty but also freeing. I understood exactly what he meant. I texted back. That's exactly the right word. Freeing. Want to grab lunch sometime? I could use a friend who gets it. I'd like that. November turned into December. The city decorated for holidays and normally this would have been a sad time. First holidays without Brandon, without his family traditions. But instead I felt relieved. No more forcing myself to smile through Monica's passive-aggressive comments. No more pretending to enjoy Gloria's overcrowded, chaotic Christmas dinners. Instead, I made plans with my book club friends. Trina invited me to her family's Christmas Eve gathering. Fair warning, it's loud and there will be about 40 people and my aunt will probably try to set you up with someone, but the food is amazing and everyone is genuinely kind. Sounds perfect, I said. On a cold Tuesday in mid-December, Patricia called with news. We got a court date for the asset division hearing. January 15th. That's fast. The judge reviewed our evidence and agreed this needs to be resolved quickly, especially given Brandon's attempts to hide and spend marital assets. We're in good shape, Simone. Really good shape. What about his promotion? It went through. He's making $120 now. But since we filed before it was official, and we have evidence he was planning to wait for it specifically to divorce you, the judge is considering that income in our calculations. You're going to get a fair settlement. I'm confident. After we hung up, I sat in my apartment and looked around. At my small but cozy space. At the life I was building from scratch. At the future stretching out ahead of me, full of possibilities I hadn't even considered when I was married. I thought about Monica's cruel joke. No one would miss you. She'd been so wrong. My coworkers valued me. My new friends appreciated me. Even Brandon's parents had reached out multiple times to maintain a relationship with me, separate from their son. The only people who wouldn't miss me were the ones who'd never really seen me in the first place. And I was perfectly fine with that. The deposition room was sterile and cold, with fluorescent lights that made everyone look slightly ill. Brandon sat across from me for the first time since I'd left, and I barely recognized him. He'd lost weight and there were dark circles under his eyes. He looked at me like I was a stranger. Maybe I was. Patricia sat next to me, composed and professional. Brandon's lawyer, Mr. Hutchins, was a silver-haired man in an expensive suit who kept checking his watch like he had somewhere better to be. Let's begin, Patricia said. Brandon, when did your relationship with Ashley Crawford begin? He shifted uncomfortably. I don't see how that's relevant. It's extremely relevant. When? January of last year. So you carried on an extramarital affair for approximately 11 months before your wife discovered it? It wasn't like that. It just happened. Patricia slid a stack of papers across the table. These are credit card statements showing expenditures at hotels, expensive restaurants, and jewelry stores. All charged to joint accounts. Can you explain these? Brandon's jaw tightened. Some of those were business expenses. Business expenses at romantic hotels? On weekends? Patricia pulled out another document. This is a statement from the Riverside Hotel confirming these were personal bookings, not business. Mr. Hutchins interjected. My client admits to the affair. Can we move on to asset division? Not yet. I want to establish a pattern of financial misconduct. Patricia turned back to Brandon. Did your sister Monica know about your affair? His eyes flickered. I don't know what you mean. Let me be clear. Did Monica know you were having an affair with Ashley Crawford? She might have suspected. Did she help you hide it from Simone? Silence. Mr. Anderson, you're under oath. Did your sister provide alibis for you? Did she help you plan how to minimize your wife's share of marital assets in an eventual divorce? More silence. Then quietly, yes. The admission hung in the air. Mr. Hutchins looked like he wanted to die. Patricia pulled out printed messages. For the record, these are text conversations between Brandon Anderson and his sister Monica Harrison, in which they explicitly discuss strategies to reduce Simone's portion of the marital estate, including waiting until after his promotion to file for divorce. She slid copies to both lawyers. I watched Brandon's face go pale as she read selected excerpts aloud. Need to wait for the promotion first. Better salary for when we split assets. That's you, correct? Yes, he said through gritted teeth. And here Monica writes, document everything. Make it look like you contributed more than you did. She's advising you on how to commit fraud against your wife, isn't she? It wasn't fraud. I was just protecting myself. Protecting yourself by lying about marital contributions and planning to hide assets? Patricia's voice was sharp. That's the definition of fraud, Mr. Anderson. The deposition lasted 3 hours. By the end, Brandon looked defeated. His lawyer had stopped trying to defend him and was just trying to minimize the damage. As we packed up, Brandon tried to catch my eye. Simone, please. Can we talk? Just for a minute? I looked at him, really looked at him, and felt nothing. No love, no anger, no regret. Just emptiness where he used to be. No, I said simply and walked out. In the parking lot, Patricia gave me a rare smile. That went extremely well. His credibility is destroyed. The judge is going to side with us on almost everything. What about Monica? I'm sending copies of her messages to their parents. I think they have a right to know what their daughter has been doing. That evening, I met Thomas for dinner at a small Italian place downtown. We'd been having these regular friend dinners and they helped both of us process what we were going through. How was the deposition? He asked. Brutal. But effective. His lawyer looked like he wanted to jump out the window. Thomas laughed. Ashley's was similar. She tried to claim the affair meant nothing, that she still loved me. When her lawyer showed her the messages where she called me boring and said she couldn't wait to leave me, she broke down crying. Good. She should feel bad. The thing is, I think she does. But that doesn't change anything. Actions have consequences. He took a sip of wine. I heard through mutual friends that she's struggling. Lost her job because of the affair violating company policy. Her parents are disappointed. She's living in a small apartment and working as a temp. And Brandon lost his promotion, I added. HR investigated when our divorce became public and found out he'd been having an affair with a subordinate. Against company policy. They demoted him back to his old position. We sat in silence for a moment, neither of us feeling triumphant exactly, but both feeling like maybe justice was real after all. You know what's wild? Thomas said. They destroyed their lives for each other. And now that they actually can be together without sneaking around, I heard they're not even seeing each other anymore. I wasn't surprised. That's what happens when your relationship is built on lies and excitement. Take away the sneaking around and there's nothing left. Later that week I got a call from Gloria. We'd been texting occasionally, and she'd been respectful of my boundaries while making it clear she still cared about me. Simone, honey, can we meet? Please? I need to talk to you about something. We met at a quiet restaurant for lunch. Gloria looked older than she had at that last family dinner, with new lines around her eyes. I'm leaving Harold, she said without preamble. I nearly dropped my fork. What? I've been thinking about this for weeks. Ever since I learned what Brandon and Monica did. Harold, he keeps making excuses for them. Says boys will be boys, says Monica was just being loyal to her brother. He wants to forgive them and move on. She shook her head. But I can't. They hurt you, someone I love like a daughter. They conspired to commit fraud. And worst of all, they feel no real remorse. Gloria, you don't have to leave your husband because of me. It's not just because of you. It's because I've realized I've been making excuses for them their whole lives. Monica's cruelty. Brandon's selfishness. I always told myself they'd grow out of it. But they're adults now and they're worse than ever. She reached across the table and took my hand. I'm 62 years old. I don't have time to waste on people who don't share my values. Not even my own children. I squeezed her hand. I'm sorry you're going through this. Don't be. I'm not. For the first time in years, I feel clear about what I want. She smiled sadly. I'm getting my own apartment. Volunteering more with the literacy program I love. Maybe traveling. I'm going to build a life that makes me proud. That sounds beautiful. I learned it from you. Watching you walk away from a bad situation with such dignity. Watching you rebuild. You inspired me. We talked for another hour and when we parted, she hugged me tight. Stay in touch. You're still family to me, divorce or not. I will. I promise. The following week brought more developments. Monica's husband Derek filed for separation. Apparently, learning that his wife had helped her brother commit fraud against his spouse was a deal breaker. Monica was suddenly facing her own marriage falling apart. She tried to call me again. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. Simone, please. I'm sorry. I know I messed up. I know I was awful to you. But my whole life is falling apart. Derek is leaving. My parents won't talk to me. Brandon won't return my calls because he blames me for the deposition going badly. I've lost everything. I listened to the voicemail once, then deleted it. Patricia had warned me this might happen. People who face consequences for their actions often try to seek forgiveness from their victims. They want you to absolve them so they can feel better. You don't owe her that. And I didn't. Monica hadn't cared about my pain when she was helping Brandon betray me. She only cared about her own now that she was facing consequences. Ashley tried to contact me too, through a mutual acquaintance. She wanted to explain herself and apologize. I sent back a simple message. I don't need your explanation or apology. Leave me alone. Some bridges needed to burn completely. At work, things continued to improve. I'd excelled in my new role, and Helen hinted at even more opportunities on the horizon. Jerome and I had started having regular coffee meetings talking about projects and occasionally personal things. He made me laugh. He was kind. And he never pushed for more than I was ready to give. I like spending time with you, he said one afternoon. No pressure, no expectations. Just, if you ever want to get dinner sometime, not as colleagues but as friends or maybe more, I'd be interested. I'm not ready for more yet, I said honestly. But I appreciate you being patient. And I like spending time with you too. Then let's keep doing that. Everything else can wait. That weekend, Trina dragged me to a holiday market downtown. We drank hot chocolate and looked at handmade crafts and laughed at ridiculous Christmas sweaters. It was simple, easy, joyful, the kind of day I hadn't had in years. You seem happy, Trina observed. I am. Or at least I'm getting there. Good. You deserve it. You deserve all of it, the happiness, the success, the good people around you. Walking through the market, surrounded by twinkling lights and holiday music, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Real, genuine hope that life could be good again. That I could be whole again. That maybe Monica's cruel joke had actually been a gift in disguise, the push I needed to finally leave a marriage that was slowly killing who I was. And if that wasn't the perfect revenge, I didn't know what was. The house looked different when I pulled up, smaller somehow, less significant. It was the first time I'd been back since leaving, and Patricia had advised me to bring someone with me. Thomas had volunteered. You sure about this? He asked as we sat in the driveway. I need to get the rest of my things. The hearing is in 2 weeks and I want everything that's mine out before then. The key still worked. Inside, the house felt like a museum of a life I used to have. Nothing had been cleaned. Dishes sat in the sink. Mail piled up on the counter. It smelled stale, like sadness and regret. Thomas helped me pack. We worked efficiently. Clothes Brandon had bought me that I didn't want, photos I couldn't bear to leave behind, books, small furniture items Patricia had confirmed were mine. We were loading the second box into my car when Brandon's car pulled into the driveway. He got out slowly, staring at us. What are you doing here? Getting my things. Patricia sent you notice I'd be coming today. You brought him? Brandon gestured at Thomas angrily. Her husband? That's low, Simone. Ex-husband, Thomas corrected. And I'm just helping her move. We're friends. Friends? Right. Brandon laughed bitterly. So what, you two are together now? That's why you wanted the divorce? I stared at him, incredulous. Are you serious right now? You're asking me about my personal life? You cheated for a year, planned to steal from me, and had your sister help you do it. But sure, I'm the villain for having a friend help me move. I made mistakes, Simone. I know that. But we could fix this. We could go to counseling. We could. No. The word came out harder than I intended. There's no fixing this. You didn't make a mistake, Brandon. You made hundreds of conscious choices to betray me. Every text to Ashley. Every lie. Every dollar you spent on her. Those weren't mistakes. Those were decisions. I was unhappy. You were always working, always focused on your career. You stopped making me a priority. Something in me snapped. I worked because we had bills to pay. I worked because you had student loans from graduate school that I helped cover. I worked because the house payment didn't make itself. And even while working, I still cooked your favorite meals, went to your family events, supported your career. What exactly did you sacrifice for our marriage, Brandon? He had no answer. You want to know when I stopped making you a priority? I continued. It was around the same time you stopped seeing me as a person and started seeing me as an obstacle to your happiness with Ashley. It was when Monica made that joke about no one missing me and you said nothing. It was every time you chose comfort over effort, lies over truth, yourself over us. I loved you, he said quietly. No. You loved the idea of me. The version that made you look good, that supported you without asking for anything back, that stayed small so you could feel big. But that's not love, Brandon. That's convenience. Thomas touched my arm gently. We should go. Wait, Brandon said. The house. The money. You're taking everything. I'm taking what I'm legally entitled to. What I put into this marriage. What you tried to steal from me. I picked up another box. You wanted to know if anyone would miss me? Turns out plenty of people value me. My coworkers, my friends, even your mother. The only people who didn't were the ones who never really saw me in the first place. That's not fair. Fair? You planned to divorce me right after your promotion so I'd get less money. You spent $20,000 of our savings on your affair. You and your sister conspired to defraud me. And you think I'm being unfair? His face crumpled. I lost everything. The promotion, the respect of my family. Ashley won't even talk to me anymore. Isn't that enough? I didn't take anything from you. You lost those things because of your own choices. I just refused to go down with your ship. We finished loading my car in silence. Brandon stood in the driveway watching, looking lost. As Thomas and I pulled away, I looked back one last time. Not at Brandon, but at the house that had been my prison for the last few years. I felt nothing but relief to be leaving it behind. That was intense, Thomas said once we were on the highway. Yeah. But necessary. I took a deep breath. I needed to say those things. I needed him to know that I see exactly who he is. Do you think he gets it? Honestly? I don't think he's capable of getting it. People like Brandon and Ashley, they're so wrapped up in their own narratives that they can't see beyond themselves. He probably still thinks he's the victim somehow. We drove to my apartment and unloaded everything. When we finished, Thomas ordered pizza and we ate on my couch, too tired to talk much. You know what's funny? I said eventually. A few months ago this would have destroyed me. Seeing him, confronting him, all of it. But today it just felt like closure. That's growth, Thomas said. You're healing. We both are. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is Ashley. I know you don't want to hear from me, but I need you to know I'm sorry. What we did was wrong. I was wrong. I don't expect forgiveness, I just needed to say it. I showed Thomas the message. Are you going to respond? I thought about it for a long moment. Then I deleted the message. No. Her guilt isn't my responsibility to manage. The next few days were busy. Work was intense as we prepared for a major campaign launch. I stayed late most nights, but it was different than before. I was working because I loved it, because I was good at it, not because I was trying to prove something or earn love. Jerome stopped by my office one evening. You're here late again. Big presentation tomorrow. Want company? I can order food. We ended up working together until midnight, bouncing ideas off each other and laughing at increasingly ridiculous advertising concepts. When we finally called it a night, Jerome walked me to my car. I like this, he said. Spending time with you. Getting to know you better. Me too. I know you're not ready for anything serious. And I respect that. But I want you to know that when you are ready, if you're interested, I'm here. I smiled. I'll keep that in mind. That's all I'm asking. The next morning, I woke up to multiple missed calls from Monica. She'd left another voicemail. Simone, Derek served me with divorce papers. He's taking the kids. My parents won't help me. Brandon won't talk to me. You're the only one who might understand what this feels like. Please call me back. I listened to it once. Then I called Patricia. Monica is trying to contact me. Multiple times. Do you want a restraining order? No. I just want her to stop. Can you send a cease and desist letter? Absolutely. I'll have it drafted today. That afternoon, Patricia called back. Done. The letter has been sent. If she contacts you again after receiving it, we can pursue legal action. Thank you. How are you feeling about the hearing next week? Ready. More than ready. Good. Because we're going to win this. That weekend, I went to Trina's family Christmas party like she'd invited me to weeks ago. Her family was exactly as described, loud, warm, with about 40 people crammed into her parents' house. Her aunt did try to set me up with her nephew, but I politely declined and explained I was recently separated. Good for you for leaving, Aunt Jackie said. Life's too short to be with someone who doesn't appreciate you. I spent the evening eating amazing food, playing with Trina's nieces and nephews, and laughing more than I had in months. As I left, Trina's mother hugged me tight. You're welcome here anytime, baby. Family isn't just blood. It's who shows up for you. Driving home, I thought about family. About Gloria choosing me over her own son. About this group of strangers welcoming me into their home. About Thomas becoming a real friend through shared pain. Family was who you chose. And I was choosing people who saw me, valued me, celebrated me. I pulled into my apartment complex just as it started to snow, the first snow of the season. Big, fat flakes that caught the street lights and turned everything magical. I stood in the parking lot for a moment, face turned up to the sky, feeling the cold on my skin. This was my life now. Small apartment, new friends, new possibilities. It wasn't the life I'd planned. It wasn't the fairy tale I'd believed in when I married Brandon. But it was mine. Completely, entirely mine. And that was worth more than any perfect revenge could ever be. The courtroom was smaller than I expected, with wood paneling and fluorescent lights that flickered occasionally. I sat next to Patricia, hands folded in my lap, while Brandon and his lawyer sat across the aisle. He looked worse than he had at the house. Thinner, more desperate, like a man watching his entire world collapse in slow motion. The judge, a stern woman in her 60s named Judge Roberts, reviewed the case file with sharp eyes. This is a divorce proceeding with contested asset division. I've reviewed the submitted evidence. Mr. Hutchins, does your client wish to make any statement before we proceed? Brandon's lawyer stood. Your Honor, my client admits to marital infidelity but contests the characterization of his actions as financial fraud. He believes he's entitled to 50% of all marital assets regardless of. I've read your brief, Counselor. What I'm asking is whether your client has any statement to make about the evidence of premeditated asset concealment shown in the messages between him and his sister. Mr. Hutchins looked uncomfortable. Your Honor, those messages were taken out of context. They explicitly discuss waiting for a promotion before filing for divorce to maximize his income and minimize his wife's share. They discuss strategies to make it appear he contributed more to asset acquisition than he did. That's not context. That's conspiracy to commit fraud. Judge Roberts turned to Brandon directly. Mr. Anderson, do you deny these messages are real? Brandon stood slowly. No, Your Honor. But I was trying to protect myself. Protect yourself by defrauding your wife? Sit down. She turned to Patricia. Counselor? Patricia stood confidently. Your Honor, the evidence shows a clear pattern of financial misconduct. Over $20,000 in marital funds spent on the extramarital affair. Documented plans to conceal assets. And most egregiously, involving a third party, his sister, in conspiracy to minimize my client's rightful share of marital property. She handed up additional documents. We're seeking full reimbursement of funds spent on the affair, a 60-40 split of remaining marital assets in my client's favor given the misconduct, and full ownership of the marital home given that my client provided the entire down payment from separate property. Brandon's lawyer objected, but Judge Roberts silenced him with a look. I've seen a lot of divorces, she said. I've seen people make mistakes, have affairs, grow apart. But what I see here is calculated, premeditated financial abuse. Mr. Anderson didn't just cheat on his wife. He planned to rob her while doing it. She looked at her notes again. The house, purchased 5 years ago, Down payment of $60,000 provided entirely by Mrs. Anderson from an inheritance. Is that correct? Yes, Your Honor, Patricia confirmed. And Mr. Anderson contributed $0 to the down payment? That's correct. He was in graduate school at the time. My client supported them both while he completed his degree. Judge Roberts made a note. Regarding the spent marital funds, $23,000 documented as spent on hotels, gifts, and other expenses related to the affair. Mr. Anderson, did you have your wife's permission to spend this money? Brandon stood again, sweating now. It was our joint account. I thought. You thought you could spend joint money on your mistress without consequences? Interesting interpretation of marital partnership. She flipped through more pages. I'm ready to rule. My heart pounded. Patricia squeezed my hand under the table. First, the $23,000 spent on the affair will be reimbursed to the marital estate from Mr. Anderson's portion. Second, given the clear evidence of financial misconduct and attempted fraud, the division of remaining assets will be 65% to Mrs. Anderson, 35% to Mr. Anderson. Third, the marital home will go entirely to Mrs. Anderson, with Mr. Anderson's name removed from the deed. He will retain no interest in the property. Brandon made a choking sound. His lawyer put a hand on his shoulder. Furthermore, Judge Roberts continued, Mr. Anderson will be responsible for 60% of all joint debts, including the remaining mortgage until Mrs. Anderson decides whether to keep or sell the property. His retirement account will be divided according to the 65/35 split. And finally, I'm awarding Mrs. Anderson full reimbursement of her attorney's fees, to be paid by Mr. Anderson within 90 days. Your Honor, Mr. Hutchins tried to interject. This is extremely punitive. It's extremely fair given your client's conduct. If he didn't want punitive consequences, he shouldn't have committed fraud. She banged her gavel. Divorce granted. My clerk will prepare the final order. I sat in stunned silence as the courtroom cleared. Patricia was grinning. That was even better than I expected. The full house, attorney's fees, 65% of everything else. Simone, you just won completely. I can't believe it. Believe it? You stood up for yourself, documented everything, and the judge saw exactly what Brandon was trying to do. Justice was served. As we packed up our things, I glanced over at Brandon. He was slumped in his chair, his lawyer talking to him in low, urgent tones. He looked up and caught my eye. For a moment, I saw the man I'd married, or thought I'd married. Then I saw him for what he really was. Someone who'd always put himself first and was now facing the consequences of that selfishness. I looked away first. Outside the courthouse, I called Gloria. She'd asked me to let her know how it went. I got the house, I told her. And 65% of everything else. He has to reimburse the money he spent on Ashley and pay my attorney's fees. Gloria was quiet for a moment. Then, good. That's exactly what should have happened. How are you doing? I asked. I moved into my new apartment last week. It's small but it's mine. Harold is still living in the house, still making excuses for the kids. But I'm done with all of that. She sighed. I'm learning how to be happy alone. It's harder than I thought but also freeing? I know exactly what you mean. Have dinner with me this week? I want to hear everything. I'd love that. That evening I met Thomas at our usual spot. He'd had his own final hearing the week before and had gotten a similarly favorable settlement. How does it feel? He asked. To be officially done? Weird. Good. Set. Relieved. All of it at once. Yeah, that's about right. He raised his glass of wine. To new beginnings? To new beginnings. We clinked glasses and drank. The restaurant was cozy with soft lighting and good food, and for the first time in months, I felt like I could truly relax. I heard Ashley moved out of state, Thomas said. Her parents' house in Ohio. Apparently she couldn't handle everyone knowing what she'd done. And Brandon lost his apartment, I added. Patricia heard he's staying with a friend. Between the attorney's fees and the settlement payment, he's basically broke. Good. They should be uncomfortable. They made us uncomfortable for long enough. I don't even feel vindictive about it anymore, I admitted. I just feel done. Like that chapter is completely closed. Me too. Which is good because I'm ready to start writing new chapters. Over dinner we talked about our plans. Thomas was thinking about going back to school for his master's degree. I was considering buying a smaller house now that I own the marital home free and clear. I plan to sell it and use the equity for a fresh start. What about Jerome? Thomas asked with a knowing smile. You two seem close. I felt my face heat. We're taking things slow. I'm not ready to jump into anything serious. But you like him. I like him. He's patient and kind and he makes me laugh. And he doesn't pressure me, which I appreciate. Sounds like a good one. He is. But I'm also okay being alone right now. For the first time in my adult life, I'm genuinely happy being by myself. I don't need someone else to complete me. That's when you know you're really healed. The news of my divorce settlement spread quickly through Brandon's family. Monica tried to call again, but the cease and desist letter had done its job. She didn't leave a voicemail this time. Derek had been granted primary custody of their kids, and Monica was facing her own financial struggles. I didn't feel sorry for her. She'd made her choices just like Brandon had. She'd chosen to hurt me to help her brother, and now she was experiencing the natural consequences of that decision. At work, my success continued. The campaign I'd been working on launched to huge acclaim, and Helen called me into her office with news. The board was impressed with your leadership on this project. They want to create a new director of marketing position. It's yours if you want it, $110,000 a year plus bonuses. I accepted on the spot. Director. 6 figures. I'd done it. I'd built a career I was proud of, all while surviving the worst year of my life. That weekend, Jerome took me to dinner at a nice restaurant. Not as colleagues or friends but as something more, something we'd both been dancing around for weeks. I'm not good at this, I admitted as we waited for our food. Dating again. Being vulnerable. Trusting someone new. I'm not asking you to trust me completely yet, Jerome said. I'm just asking for a chance to show you I'm worth trusting eventually. That's fair. And for what it's worth, I think you're amazing. Not in spite of what you've been through but because of how you handled it. You could have been bitter or angry or broken. Instead, you built something beautiful from the ruins. That takes strength. I felt tears prick my eyes. Thank you for seeing that. I see you, Simone. All of you. And I like what I see. We held hands across the table, and for the first time since the barbecue where Monica had made her cruel joke, I felt genuinely hopeful about the future. About love. About the possibility of building something real with someone who valued me. Later that night, as I lay in bed in my apartment, I thought about everything that had happened. About how Monica's joke had been the catalyst that woke me up from a marriage that was slowly suffocating me. About how Brandon's betrayal had freed me to become someone stronger, more independent, more myself. The revenge I'd imagined back in October, the quiet, perfect revenge, had happened. But it hadn't been about hurting them. It had been about saving myself. And that, I realized, was the most perfect revenge of all. 6 months had passed since the divorce was finalized. Spring had come to the city, bringing cherry blossoms and warm breezes and a sense of renewal that felt almost too perfect to be real. I stood in front of the mirror in my new house, a charming 3-bedroom in a quiet neighborhood, bought with the proceeds from selling the marital home, and smiled at my reflection. The woman looking back at me was different from the one who'd sat at that barbecue last October, absorbing Monica's cruel words in silence. She was confident, strong, free. You look beautiful, Jerome said from the doorway, and I turned to see him in his suit, ready for the evening ahead. Thank you. You clean up pretty well yourself. We were attending my company's annual awards dinner, where I'd be receiving recognition for the campaign that had increased our client base by 30%. Director of Marketing. 6 figures. Respect from my colleagues. Pride in my work. I'd done it all on my own. At the restaurant, the ballroom was decorated elegantly with round tables and soft lighting. My team was already there and they cheered when Jerome and I arrived. Trina hugged me tight. Look at you. Director, successful, happy. You're basically living your best life. I really am, I said, meaning it completely. Helen approached with a glass of champagne. Simone, I want to introduce you to some board members. They're very impressed with your work. I spent the next hour networking, accepting congratulations, and feeling genuinely proud of what I'd accomplished. When they called my name for the award, the applause was thunderous. I walked to the podium and looked out at the crowd, at my colleagues, my friends, at Jerome smiling at me from our table. When I started at this company 7 years ago, I said, I was a different person. I was quieter, less confident, always trying to shrink myself to fit into spaces that weren't built for me. This past year taught me something important. The only person's expectations I need to meet are my own. The only approval I need is my own. And when you stop trying to be small, you realize just how much room you have to grow. The applause was even louder this time. As I returned to my seat, trophy in hand, I felt complete in a way I never had in my marriage. Later, as Jerome and I danced, he pulled me close. I'm proud of you. Not just for the award. For everything. Thank you for being patient with me. For letting me heal at my own pace. You're worth waiting for. We'd been officially dating for 3 months now, taking things slow but steady. He'd met my friends. I'd met his family. We spent weekends together, exploring the city or staying in and cooking elaborate meals or just existing in comfortable silence. He was kind in ways Brandon never had been. He listened. He remembered small details. He showed up consistently. And most importantly, he celebrated my success instead of feeling threatened by it. I love you, he said quietly, and my breath caught. I love you too, I replied, and meant it. Not the desperate, clingy love I'd had for Brandon, but something healthier. Something built on mutual respect and genuine affection. The next morning, I met Gloria for brunch at our favorite spot. She looked vibrant in a blue dress, her hair styled differently, younger somehow. You look happy, I observed. I am. I started volunteering at the Literacy Center full-time. I'm teaching adult reading classes. It's the most fulfilling thing I've ever done. She smiled. And I met someone. Another volunteer. His name is Walter. He's kind and patient and he makes me laugh. That's wonderful. It is. At 62, I didn't think I'd find love again. But here we are. She reached across the table and took my hand. Thank you. For what? For showing me it was possible to start over. For being brave enough to walk away. You inspired me to do the same. Tears stung my eyes. You inspired me too. You chose me over your own son. That meant everything. You're still family to me. Always will be. We talked for hours about her new life, my new relationship, the ways we'd both rebuilt from the ashes of what was. When we parted, I felt grateful, not for what had happened but for what I'd learned from it. That afternoon, I drove past the house where Brandon and I used to live. The new owners had painted it yellow and planted flowers in the front yard. It looked happy now. Well, I didn't feel sad seeing it. I felt relieved that it had become something beautiful for someone else. My phone buzzed with a text from Thomas. Ashley reached out again. Said she wanted to apologize one more time. I finally wrote back and told her I forgive her, but I don't want any contact. Feels good to close that door completely. I texted back, proud of you. That takes strength. We both got strong. Trauma will do that if you let it. He was right. We'd both taken our pain and transformed it into something powerful. We'd become people who knew our worth, who wouldn't settle, who understood that being alone was better than being with someone who didn't see us. That evening, Jerome and I cooked dinner together in my kitchen. Our kitchen, since he'd been spending most nights at my place. We moved around each other easily, comfortable and familiar. I was thinking, he said as he chopped vegetables, maybe we could take a trip this summer? Somewhere you've always wanted to go. Greece, I said immediately. I've always wanted to see the islands. Then Greece it is. We'll find the most beautiful island and spend a week doing absolutely nothing but eating good food and swimming in blue water. That sounds perfect. After dinner, we sat on my back porch with wine, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. Life felt quiet in the best way. Peaceful. My phone buzzed. An email from an address I didn't recognize. Against my better judgment, I opened it. It was from Brandon. Simone, I know I have no right to contact you. I know the divorce is final and you've moved on. But I needed you to know that I understand now what I lost. Not the house or the money, but you. Your kindness, your strength, your love. I threw it all away for something that meant nothing. Ashley and I lasted about 2 months before we realized we had nothing real to build on. Monica won't speak to me. My parents barely acknowledge me. I lost my job, my family, everything. And I deserve all of it. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that you were right about everything. And I hope you're happy. I hope you found someone who appreciates you the way I should have. I'm sorry. For all of it. B. I read it twice. Then I showed it to Jerome. How do you feel? He asked. Nothing. I feel nothing. And it was true. No anger, no satisfaction, no vindication. Just nothing. Brandon had become a stranger whose choices no longer affected me. I deleted the email without responding. Good, Jerome said. He doesn't deserve any more of your energy. No, he doesn't. A few days later, I ran into Monica at a grocery store. She looked tired, older, wearing sweatpants and no makeup. So different from the perfectly put-together woman who'd made that cruel joke about no one missing me. She saw me and froze. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then she walked over slowly. Simone, she said quietly. Don't, I interrupted. Whatever you're about to say, don't. You made your choices. You live with them. I'm living with mine. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. For everything. I was jealous and petty and I hurt you for no good reason. You're right. You did. And now we both move forward separately. She nodded, tears in her eyes. You look good. Happy. I am. Good. You deserve that. I walked away without looking back. It wasn't cruel, it was necessary. Some people didn't get second chances. Some bridges stayed burned. That Sunday, I went to book club at Nicole's house. We'd finished an inspiring novel about resilience, and the conversation was lively and deep. Afterward, as we cleaned up, Nicole pulled me aside. Remember when you first came to this group? You were so quiet, so unsure of yourself. Look at you now. I'm not the same person, I admitted. No, you're better. You're fully yourself. It was true. I was Simone, not Brandon's wife, not anyone's daughter or sister or employee. Just Simone, complete unto herself, building a life she loved with people who valued her. That night, I sat down with my journal, a habit I'd maintained since the divorce, and wrote. They thought no one would miss me. They were wrong. People missed me because they actually saw me. They valued me because I was worthy of value. And when I finally saw it too, when I finally valued myself enough to walk away from people who didn't, that's when everything changed. The perfect revenge wasn't making them hurt. It was refusing to keep hurting. It was building something beautiful from the ruins. It was proving that I didn't need them to be whole because I was always whole on my own. Monica's joke was meant to diminish me. Instead, it woke me up. It showed me I'd been living half a life trying to earn love from people who would never give it freely. So I stopped trying. I stopped shrinking. I stopped apologizing for taking up space. And I found out something wonderful. I like the space I take up. I like who I am when I'm not trying to be someone else. I like this life I've built. So thank you, Monica, for that cruel joke. You thought you were testing me. Instead, you freed me. And now I'm living proof that your words were wrong. People miss me. Because I'm worth missing. Because I'm worth knowing. Because I'm worth loving. And I finally believe that. I closed the journal and looked around my house. At the art on my walls. At the books on my shelves. At the life I'd built from scratch. This was my perfect revenge, being happy without them. Being whole without them. Being completely, unapologetically myself. And it was more perfect than I ever could have imagined.